Hello. How are my gummies doing today? Thank you so much for tuning in. This is episode 3. And today I decided to take on a topic. Originally, my video was supposed to be a commentary on how to get away with murder. I was so excited and looking forward to the premiere. I watched the premiere and it kind of left me speechless. I didn't really have a lot of commentary. So I think I'm going to do commentary on the episode of Blackish. I kind of had an internal struggle as to what I wanted to say about it, or if I even wanted to do a video on it, because it's a topic that's very close to home and it's very difficult topic. The meme that's in the beginning of this video, it says, "Do you think colorism still exists?" And then I provided a definition of what colorism is. So colorism is prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. Episode 10, and it's called Black Like Us. Let me pause here. Spoiler alert. If you have not watched the episode, you have it on your DVR, and you plan on watching it, I suggest that you end the video here. Please do not come for me in the comment section. I'm letting you know now. Spoiler alert. If you plan on watching it, press pause. If you continue to watch, don't complain about spoilers that I talk about here, because I plan on basically giving you a walkthrough of the episode. So here we go. I saw the promo. I saw the commercials on social media. I noticed it first on Instagram, and I thought that, wow, it really hit close to home. So the episode is about Diane, who is played by Marseille Martin. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. She's one of the twins, and Anthony Anderson and Tracy Ellis Ross portray her parents on the show, and Jennifer Lewis is Anthony Anderson's mother. And basically the scene opens up with Bo and Dre talking to each other about Diane's school picture. Basically what happened is, since she's a little chocolate, they took a school picture and she was in the far right in the back, and unfortunately she didn't have enough lighting, so you can't really see her. It's kind of like a shadow of where she should be. And they immediately got upset, and Dre was, oh, it was his racism, and Rainbow was like, well, I don't think it's racism. I just think they're not aware of the lighting. But basically they got very upset. She's calling the principal. Dre's like, are you going to fight her? You need to fight her. And then when Diane comes in, Ro immediately is going to console her, like, oh, sweetie, are you okay? And, Diane was like, whatever. And then as they continue the conversation, then enters, Jennifer Lewis, then the older son, Andre comes in, and then the scene just kind of starts to develop from there. And the funny part, so I just have a few points that I want to go over. Like I said, I have so many things racing through my head, so I'm hoping that I stay on topic and I follow my bullets and not be all over the place. The first thing I wanted to say is the lighting of the photo. Well, let me start here. The writers did an excellent job with this episode. In my opinion, they did a very good job with balancing out the comedy with the real life topic. Whoever directed that episode, they did an excellent job. It's very reminiscent of Different World, Living Single, and The Cosby Show, because they were all comedies, but yet they would address issues or things going on in the world at that time. And I think Blackish is doing a very good job of doing that as well. And don't get me wrong, colorism is a issue that has been going on for forever. And my husband reminded me that he said his first experience that he can remember to his memory was School Days, that movie, Spike Lee production. He said that, and I was reading an article about it, and they were saying that, it was like a whole 7-minute musical scene to address colorism, the whole light skin versus dark skin, team dark skin, team light skin. And so that's the first thing I remember. But obviously we know that the discussion goes way further back than that. Slavery, where they, as the episode of Blackish explains, you have the dark skin slaves and you have the light skin slaves. Allegedly, the light skin would be the ones that got placed in the house. I guess they were less intimidating, and then the slaves that would be out in the field. But anyway, I digress. So the whole lighting of the photo, I can definitely relate to that, because I don't know if you noticed, but deep dark chocolate hair. And I am often a person who makes that joke about, wait a minute, we're about to take this picture, we need to find a light. I need to make sure that I don't disappear in your photo, because if there's a slightest shadow, the picture's not going to come out right. I've even, sometimes we even have to take it outside to the natural sun just to make sure that I don't disappear. That part of the episode was definitely true. I could definitely identify with that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is internal conflicts. So it was just funny to me that when they first saw the photo, they were ready to fight. They were ready to, take on the principal, to find out why in the world that they did not have proper lighting so that their daughter appeared properly in the photo. But it was their older son, Dre, that let them know that, well, we don't do so great with dealing with colorism within our own household. And it's because of certain comments or certain things that they tease each other about based on the color of each other's skin. Because if you ever watch Blackish, Tracy Ellis Ross is portraying a person with a mixed background, where her mother is black and her father is white. And of course, Dre has Lawrence Fishburne and Jennifer Lewis, who is portraying his parents, so he is a little bit of a darker skin tone. And they have 4 children. 5, excuse me, I forgot about the baby. The two oldest children are a little bit more fair skinned, and then they have the twins who are a little bit more brown, but Diane is darker than everyone in the family. So it's, so there's jokes and stuff that are made even within their family that represents colorism. But of course, you don't really pay attention to that, because when Andre brings that to Dre's attention, he's like, excuse me, wait a minute. And Bo agrees that, they're always picking on them because, they're light-skinned, and they're making jokes, and how Jennifer Lewis always talks about Tracy Ellis Ross not being black enough because she's got the white parents, so they're always making those jokes. But yet you're upset when, the world. And Bo's response was, in here, I'm not black enough, but when I go into the world, as soon as I step outside this front door, all they see is black. Nobody cares about whether I'm light skinned or dark skinned. All they see is a black woman. So she's at work dealing with racism and the color of her skin. And then when she comes home, she still has to deal with the color of her skin, with people who are supposed to be her support, who are supposed to look like her, or still challenging her blackness because, of her skin. So you go out into the world, you're too black, it doesn't matter your shade, but then when you come home, you're not black enough. And so it's kind of a conflict. So I thought that part was even interesting about the struggles where, Team Dark Skin is like, oh, you have this light skin privilege, but at the end of the day, do you really? Because to the world, you're black. It does not matter. One little drop, I heard. They say, one little drop, 6%, some whatever the saying is, you were considered black. So you would think that that would make the whole colorism situation mute, but it doesn't. Um, so I always think, well, and then it's subtle, it's subtle things that you say in your conversation. It's not necessarily you're teaching people. It's not like a class or you're sitting people down, your kids down, like, all right, kids, what you need to know is if the person is dark skinned, they're bad. If they're light skinned, they're good. It's not introduced to you that way. It's the small, subtle comments that you hear, and it's all about how you internalize those comments. Like, for instance, if kids are going outside to play, people may say, oh, well, it's too sunny outside. Don't go out there and get all dark. So that's a negative seed that has just been planted. How about we say, be careful playing outside in the sun because you could get skin cancer. That's very real. And that could, that's a very real thing. Or you could get sunburn. Some people think that black people can't get sunburn, but you can, sweetie. You need to put your sunscreen on. Not suntan, but your sunscreen, and take care of your skin out in the sun. But those are the things we don't educate ourselves about. It's all about, about whether your skin is getting lighter or darker or whatever. So it's little things like that that are seeds that are planted, that getting darker or being dark skinned is not necessarily a good thing. If you ask a person a direct question about what do you think about dark skin, oh, dark skin is fine. But yet it's those little folk tales, I don't know what you call it, those little folk tales or small beliefs that are contradicting your embracing, yes, I'm black and I'm black and I'm proud, right? So sometimes I think that we just need to be careful. And like I said, even, true to the episode, people make comments about being light skinned. And it's funny because hurt people, I guess, lash out and hurt other people. So if you're dark skinned and you're out in the world and people tease you about your dark skin, I guess you kind of internalize that pain, and it has to, you lash out at somebody. So of course you go for the light skin, like you're, in certain situations or whatever, light skinned people are coming at me and dealing out this mean-spirited jokes. So now I feel like I have a right, or I've earned the right through my scars and my pain on the battlefield. Now I can turn around and make light-skinned jokes about you. But at the end of the day, as we see, it's hurtful. No matter which color of the scale you fall on, comments about your skin are just hurtful, period. Right? So validate feelings. I have a bullet point saying validate feelings. Why do we always measure other folks' struggles when we don't understand? Let's lift and support instead of pulling out a ruler and judging. So even when they were talking about the light skin privilege, like, we all have our struggles. So if you are someone like me, you don't necessarily think about, the other end of the spectrum. Like Bo was saying, it doesn't matter. Like, she can't wrap her head around the light skin privilege, because as far as she's concerned, when she leaves out of her home, she's black. There is no scale. But as a person who is a little bit darker, we feel like we are viewed differently, and there's a different judgment when you're dark skinned. So for me, I don't know about this, light skin privilege or whatever, but for me, it was about beauty. It's wrapped up into what beauty is. Because if you think about it, especially when I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, unfortunately, there were not a lot of dark skinned people representing. At the top of my head, as far as dark skinned women, Whoopi Goldberg is the actress that pops into my mind. She is the example that we had of dark skin. And of course, people always, when's the last time you heard someone say, oh my gosh, Whoopi Goldberg is so beautiful? And I'm not in, whether that's due to her skin tone or her facial features or whatever, that's, neither here nor there. But I just felt like that was the only representation that I can remember off the top of my head of growing up. But yet, you had Holly Berry, who was at the height of her career when I was younger growing up, and she's, lighter skinned, and that was the picture of beauty. And then Bo Derek, of course she's white, but excuse me, but Vivica Fox, she was very much popular at that time too. You had Gabrielle Union, where she was not as popular when I was younger. That's more or less as a young adult, my 20s or whatever. But anyway, there's not a lot of representation people with heavy melanin, and so therefore the images that you see, especially with natural hair, because my mother wasn't playing that. She did not want to put chemicals in my hair. So not only did I have the dark skin, but then I also had kinky curly hair that I tried my best to straighten, but my hair just wasn't feeling it. So I had a double whammy, as if you will, and that was a point of ridicule, or however you want to say it. So yeah. So I would say that it was about beauty. And when people are talking about your skin, it does make you feel bad about yourself. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to play my violin, cry me a river. Oh, I was picked on, I was teased. Everybody was picked on and teased for something, right? And at the time, well, now looking back, I know, well, some of y'all was mean, but I know overall the comments wasn't necessarily meant to tear down my self-esteem, and it wasn't, intended to, it was just kids being kids. That's how it was viewed. Kids being kids, kids saying, mean things. That's just what they do. But unfortunately, when you hear those things day in and day out about your physical appearance, you have no choice but it starts to chip away a little bit by little bit. It starts to chip away at your self-esteem, whether that, like I said, that was the intent or not. That's the end result of it. And to this day, for me, that's still a struggle. Like, it's still a struggle for me. I remember going into the mall one day, and it was myself and my goddaughter was with me, and then there was another group of ladies. We were walking into the mall, and I remember a car driving by, and a guy yelled out the window, "Hey, beautiful." And I never looked up. I never even, it never occurred to me that he could have been talking to me. The other ladies were fairer skinned. They had their long, beautiful waving hair. My goddaughter, she's, young, light skinned, and beautiful. It never occurred to me that he could have been speaking to me. And that's when it really dawned on me, like, wow, I still have work to do to work on my self-esteem. There's other days where you can't tell me nothing. I am a beautiful black goddess, sweetie. But then there's other days where, I still struggle. I still hear those negative comments in my head. My next point was safe zone. There was some really good dialogue between Rainbow and Ruby, the woman Jennifer Lewis, who plays Tracy Ellis's mother-in-law, where they just went back and forth about, Bo was saying that, again, when she's out in the world, people see her as black. She's got to deal with this whole racial thing, because when you're dealing with other races or other cultures, it's a discrimination. She deals with that in the world. But then when she comes home, a place where it should be a safe zone, because you're now with your family, you're now amongst people who look like you and should understand your struggles that you dealt with racism, but now you're dealing with colorism in your own home. So you don't have a safe zone. You don't have a place where you can kind of not sit back, but go as your refuge to kind of build yourself back up and get prepared to fight for another day. You're still getting torn down. And when people are constantly chipping at that armor, after a while, you do get weary, you do get tired. And then, that's what she was saying to Ruby, like, she's just tired of it. She's tired of dealing with it in her home. And she called Ruby a monster. And that was like a trigger word. And, she was like, I'm not a monster. Don't ever call me a monster. I had to deal with that my whole entire life. So, that even showed that there were some things that Ruby was dealing with. And like I said, we all have our crosses to bear. And I feel like that is just so real because unfortunately, um, when I was younger, I don't feel like I did have that safe zone. I felt like I got teased in school. You come home and then you get, family members who, like I said, just whether just little subtle things, little subtle statements, or even outright statements, playing a game of turn out the lights. Oh my gosh, she disappeared. She's so dark, you can't even see her. We're kids. So, of course, kids being kids, but at the end of the day, it's dark. You can't see anybody. Nobody is, you can't see anybody in the dark. But those are the type of things that, you endured. So, you know, so that's it's something to think about. There should be children, people need a safe zone. Someone on my Instagram page who made a comment on my post about colorism, she shared that she's light skinned and people will call her ghost or albino, and she said that people would kick her butt every day just because she was light skinned. But her safe zone was to come home, you know, turn on her parents' record, James Brown, I'm Black and I'm Proud, and wave her fist in the air and dance around and, just kind of reaffirm herself that, so what? Who cares that she's light skinned? She is Black. She is an African American woman, and that was her safe zone. That was her way of kind of rebuilding and regenerating to be able to deal with the negativity outside of her home the next day. So so that's a good thing. That's good. We do, well, no matter whatever your situation is, we need a safe zone, a place where we can retreat, where we can refuel and build up our armor, and the little places where the dings are starting to come through to be able to repair that, put that armor on, be strong, and go out the next day to live to fight another day, right? So I really appreciate her sharing that comment on my Instagram. And beauty. Beauty is attached to being, like I said, my mindset was beauty was attached to being light skin or dark skin. And I've already talked about that. Like, another piece of the episode was colors, the colors that we wear. Diane, they had a little skit, a little flashback for her when she was telling her parents, we don't talk about it at home. We don't address colorism at home, but it exists and I deal with it every single day. And there was a scene where she was at the beauty counter in a mall, in the store or whatever, and she was trying on lipsticks and she was going for the red, and the clerk behind the counter was dark skin also. It was like, oh, no, sweetie. People with our skin tone should stay away from red. My mom said that to me when I was younger. It was about, she was thinking that she said that I should stay away from certain colors or shouldn't wear red. And I never understood that. Like, first of all, why was red one of the colors that was called out that, dark skinned people shouldn't wear? Like, I never understood that. And I didn't understand why people didn't want you to wear, bright colors and clothes, whatever. When I'm, now that I'm older and can purchase my own clothes, I buy whatever color makes me feel good, whatever color that I think is beautiful. I wore, bright oranges. I wear pastel colors. And in my opinion, I think they look fine. They look great on someone with a darker skin tone. So I always, and now, I always make jokes about they. Well, they say, well, who is they? And why do we care about they? Why do we care about they? They don't have a face. They're not paying your bills. They're not giving you money to buy clothes. So why do we care so much about what they say? So those are the things that came to my mind as I watched the episode. I did post, like I said, I did post the question on Instagram and asked people to respond. And one of my cousins also responded and stated that he can't remember himself personally going through any situations about colorism, but being as a young child, he may have dished it out a little bit. And that's all good. I appreciate your honesty. And then someone else commented and stated that she believes that it's absolutely still an issue, and she thinks that it sucks that people are so closed-minded. And I definitely agree with you on there. It's definitely closed-minded that and you know, like I said, I don't know. Some people say that the thought process is rooted and grounded in slavery, but I don't know. I mean, that maybe that is where it started, but I guess my challenge is for all of us, because I know myself, you know, even with me being dark skinned and, like I said, feeling like I've had a lot of issues with colorism where, you know, family, friends, or whatever the case may be, has made comments or make subtle statements that they don't even realize that they're saying. I say it too. Like, there are situations where if I see someone who is extremely light skinned, my first thing is, oh, I wonder if they're Spanish, or I wonder if they're mixed. And no, as my husband would say, no, they're black. They got black parents, they black. But, you know, that's just my own cross, or my own, you know, issues that I need to address and that I need to work through. And things, like I said, are very subtle. You know, I have friends who are near and dear to me, we're in conversations about different things, and they may make an off comment about, like, oh my gosh, and they're just so dark, and why are they so dark, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, hello, do you not recognize who you're talking to? You're talking to someone who is dark skinned. So, you know, like I said, it's those little things that chip away at your armor. And it's like, well, what are you trying to say about dark skinned people? Are you trying to say that they can't be attractive, that they, you know, there's no beauty in deep melanin? I don't know. So that's all that I have. I appreciate you for tuning in and listening to me bump my gums. Like I said, always say before, I always provide my disclaimer. I am not an expert by far. Like I said, I have issues that I know that I need to deal with. There are things that I definitely recognize that I need to change my thoughts about how I approach situations or approach people. And there's things in my conversation that I need to change so that we can be the change that we want to see. You have a great day on purpose. Please, if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel. Please hit like if you like what you heard. If you didn't like what you heard, don't hit the dislike button. Just kidding. But also follow me on Instagram, Bumpin' My Gums, and I will post the topic for my next video. Have a great day on purpose.